So at this point, there might be a good chance that you've heard of Alfredo Bowman, otherwise known as Dr. Sebi. And just in case you don't know, Dr. Sebi, he was a Honduran herbalist and he was a self-proclaimed healer. And the thing that brought Dr. Sebi to fame was that he had a trial case, or a court case, I should say, in, I think, 1987, where he claimed that he cured HIV and AIDS. And one thing that he promoted a lot, that he said, if you follow this approach, you can cure just about any disease, is that he promoted a unique vegan diet. It was basically like an alkaline vegan diet. It's a special vegan diet. It's not like just any ordinary vegan diet. But he said if you follow this vegan diet approach, that you can effectively cure any kind of disease, including stuff like HIV. And just from hearing that, you might think that that's crazy, okay? Obviously, if someone actually cured HIV, you hear a lot about it, okay? And really, you can cure stuff like HIV by just eating a unique vegan diet? Well, according to Dr. Sebi, that is the case. And he actually won a case where he made that claim. All right, so I'm probably not going to read this whole article. I'm just going to point out some of the main points that I want to put out from this article. So Dr. Sebi, so in this article, he's talking about specifically about a case that he won back in 1987, where he actually won a case saying that he cured HIV. So as this article says, Dr. Sebi was arrested on February 10th, 1987 in New York because his USA Research Institute placed an advertisement in the Amsterdam News claiming to cure AIDS, sickle cell, lupus, and other diseases. The advertisement was placed in an Amsterdam News on November 2nd, 1985 on page 9. And Dr. Sebi won the case on many fronts, and the most compelling was the 72 witnesses that provided documentation showing the institute cured them of these diseases. So one thing that I think that the jury pointed out against him was, hey, do you even have any evidence towards the stuff that you're saying? And Dr. Sebi, he was able to show 72 witnesses documentation where he actually showed that the institute actually, cured them of these diseases. So now, if you ask me, this is some pretty important information. So a lot of people die from, stuff like HIV every year. And apparently, there's no kind of cure for it. Apparently, Magic Johnson, he's been having, HIV for, so many years at this point. And apparently, they say that's the case because, hey, there's no cure for it yet. But according to Dr. Sebi, that's not the case because, according to him, he provided documentation that he was actually able to cure HIV. And you never hear about this news. You never hear about this information. And you'd think that there should be more people that actually discuss this fact that this so-called doctor that the mainstream media calls a charlatan actually cured HIV. You think that a lot of people would actually be more interested in this, but thankfully there was one person who was actually really into this case. So the late great Nipsey Hussle was actually really into Dr. Sebi's case, and he was actually making a documentary that was based on Dr. Sebi. So it says Nipsey Hussle's Dr. Sebi documentary, 5 facts you need to know. And there's also a video that I might play a little bit of as well. I'm not going to play the whole video, but I'm going to play a little bit of it. Many people have never heard of Dr. Sebi, a Honduran herbalist, biologist, and self-proclaimed healer who passed away on April 6, 2016. And the fact that nobody really talks about Dr. Sebi, who otherwise his name is Alfredo Bowman, and his alleged cures for cancer and AIDS, which was a widely surreal concept to rapper Nipsey Hussle. So we decided to make a documentary on the controversial healer. But this documentary may never come to be because on May 31st, Hussle was shot and killed outside his shop in Los Angeles, California. And one thing to note about that is while Nipsey, he's no longer with us, they are people that have said that they do want to carry on with this documentary. So, Nick Cannon, for example, he was someone who said that he will try to carry on, with Nipsey Hussle's documentary. I think he said something like, they can't kill us all. So hopefully he does follow through, because this is a pretty interesting, concept that Nipsey Hussle was, trying to bring out. And hopefully this documentary ends up being made. The documentary, which followed the 1985 court trial case in which Dr. Sebi proved he had a cure for AIDS, allegedly contained evidence that the government assisted in Dr. Sebi's death. In the aftermath of Hussle's death, he leaves behind 2 children and partner Lorraine London. So that's an interesting thing to note out. So Dr. Sebi, he died 3 years ago. I think he died in 2016, and the circumstances of his death, they are pretty suspect. They are pretty suspicious, and because of that, there has been like a lot of theories as to how he died. Like if like some government agents had him killed. Who knows? But they are suspicious circumstances regarding his death. So, but it does make sense, like, why there's a lot of theories, regarding Dr. Sebi's death, because, of the stuff that he was into, like saying stuff like, he did cure HIV. So Nipsey Hussle believed Dr. Sebi's story was a powerful narrative. So I'm going to play a little bit of like this video. So, just in case, you want to hear Nipsey's own words about this documentary, I'm going to play a little bit of this video. This video is coming from like when he did an interview with the Breakfast Club, and I'm gonna go ahead and play a little bit of it.
There's a lot of little jewels that you saying in there. That's what I like. Like I said, the medicine really is in the candy. Because even when you drop a bar like about Dr. Sebi,
yeah,
like just that one thing they killed Dr. Sebi will make somebody go research who Dr. Sebi is.
100%.
Dr. Sebi. I thought it was Sebi.
Sebi. Sebi. My bad. I said it wrong.
You said
Sebi. Yeah. I'm an LA nigga, man. My lingo a little different.
Have you met Dr. Sebi?
I never met him. I met his wife, and I take his products for sure.
Now, the coolest guy ever. I mean, he was, when we interviewed him, I think he was about 74.
Oh, y'all interviewed him?
Yeah, we interviewed him twice.
Damn.
Not here, but...
I think you think that Charlemagne, he did make a good point right there. So typically, like you think that like if you kill someone, like all their ideas, they just go down the drain. And sometimes that does happen, but there's other cases where, where that does happen, and you just, you bring more light into like the stuff that the person was talking about. So, whether or not you want to believe Dr. Sebi was killed or not, his death, brought more light into like what Dr. Sebi was all about. So that I'm guessing that's probably how, not Dr. Sebi, but I'm guessing that's how Nipsey was able to get into like what Dr. Sebi was all about. Like just because of the fact that, Dr. Sebi died, his ideas were able to come more into the light, basically, if you want to see it that way. So I think that's just a pretty good point that he brought up.
When I was on the other show, he was able to jump from the floor up here on his knees.
At 70-something.
On his knees, yeah. And jump back down and no problems, nothing like that.
Why you think they killed him?
Why do they kill all holistic doctors?
Messing up the medical industry.
You short-stopping their grind. Why do niggas get killed for hustling in front of a nigga spot? You short-stopping the grind. And these niggas, they check is billions. You got niggas that get flipped for a couple $100,000. So you playing with some pharmaceutical money, And what's crazy, I'm working on doing a documentary on the trial in 1985.
And that's the reason why you're seeing like a lot of theories regarding his death, because if what he is saying is true, and if more of the stuff that Dr. Sebi was talking about comes more into the light, that could really cut into the profits of the big pharmaceutical companies that give you all these crappy pills and medicine that never helps, and it only makes people feel worse. So if stuff like Dr. Sebi saying that hey, you can cure cancer, you can cure HIV by just following a simple diet, then that's really going to cut into the profits of big pharma, and they ain't gonna like that. So maybe there is a good chance he was killed. Who knows?
Dr. Sebi went to trial against New York,
right?
Because he put in the newspaper he cured AIDS.
Yeah.
Did he
beat the case, and he went to federal court the next day and beat that case on record.
Yep.
And nobody talk about it.
That's crazy. I'm in the middle of doing this holistic detox right now, day 6 of 14.
Yeah, you was telling me.
Yeah. So.
No food, nothing.
And they said it actually can help cure fibroids. It can help you if you are, cancer, any type of heart issues. And it's all natural herbs and all organic and all holistic without actually going to a doctor and getting pharmaceutical.
Yeah. How you feel though? You feel
I
the
actually
difference?
feel pretty good.
Do you feel a difference? You think?
I do.
That's
It could be also because I've cut a lot of things out and I haven't had any food, nothing solid at all in the past 6 days. But
So like I said, I'm not going to play the whole video. I just wanted to bring out the main points that I think were in the video. So I'm going to go ahead and just continue reading this. As to why he felt the need to go through the lengths of making a documentary film about him, Nipsey said, I think the story is important. It's a powerful narrative. Like, if someone in the room said, hey, I cured AIDS, I'd be like, yeah, right. And then I can show you an example of him going to trial and proving in court he proved AIDS or he cured AIDS. Yeah, that's a little bit of a typo right here. I'd be more interested in it, more so than championing his products or explaining his methodology. Put some light on that case. And like I said, hopefully this hopefully this documentary does get made. I do think this would be a pretty interesting documentary. I think this is something that a lot of people should know more about. So you might be asking to yourself, hey, this is a CBD channel. Why are you talking so much about, Dr. Sebi? And the reason why I'm talking about Dr. Sebi a lot in this video is because a lot of people don't know, the benefits that plants can actually provide for people. And I do think that does relate to cannabis to an extent. And at this point, we already know the many benefits that cannabis can provide, specifically CBD, whether you're talking about, the anxiety help that it can provide, the pain help that it can provide. But one aspect that a lot of people probably don't know about regarding cannabis is that not only can it help with, stuff like I said, with anxiety, with pain, even with symptoms of cancer, but there is some evidence that cannabis can actually treat the cells of cancer. And I'm getting this article from the Daily Health Post. And I do think that one thing I do have to add is that this title is a little bit hyperbolic. It's not like there isn't merit to like what this article is saying. It's just that they are being a little bit hyperbolic by saying that cannabis annihilates cancer. But nevertheless, there are a lot of studies now that show that cannabis can really help with cancer. So that's why I do think that this article is pretty important to look at. And the healing properties of cannabis are nothing new. In ancient India, cannabis was used to treat ailments such as insomnia and pain. The Greeks used it to cure ailments such as nosebleeds and tapeworms. In medieval Islam, history shows cannabis used as a derivative, antiemetic, and anti-epileptic. I can't really speak English right now. I apologize. Thing to note. So even in the West, cannabis was the primary pain reliever prescribed by doctors until aspirin took its place in 1897. Up until the war on drugs began around 1937, there were at least 2,000 different cannabis-based medicines on the market. Okay? So it's not even like this is something that, we're just now finding out. This is like a plant that was used medically for probably thousands of years. Okay? So, the ancients knew about the benefits of, cannabis, at least to an extent. Like maybe, they didn't like really know like the in-depth, like benefits that we know now. But they had, the idea that, hey, this plant can really provide like some benefits. And that there's a reason why, it was used a lot, up until, the infamous war on drugs, came up, later on in the 20th century. Today, the Drug Enforcement Administration still labels cannabis a Schedule I drug in many states because it has a high potential for abuse and the potential to create severe psychological and or physical dependence. And the fact that cannabis is still labeled as a Schedule I drug, and by the way, Schedule I drug, that puts it in the same category as like stuff like heroin, for example. So really ridiculous that the DEA, still has the nerve to put, cannabis in that same category. It's really ridiculous, even stating that it has a high potential for abuse and the potential to create severe psychological and or physical dependence. It's really ridiculous. That's a really ridiculous claim to, say, And if you want to look at, drugs that have a pretty big high potential for abuse and can cause severe psychological and or physical dependence, maybe you should look at, like opiates and, like the stuff that, doctors prescribe to people, every single day. A lot of people don't know this, but there is an opioid crisis right now at the moment. And that is driven by, legal drugs such as OxyContin, for example. So maybe, if you want to be real, maybe we should put, drugs like OxyContin in the Schedule 1, drug category. But the people that make OxyContin, they're pretty rich, so, and they have a lot of power. So I don't think OxyContin is going to go in that category of drugs anytime soon. And just in case, if you want to see like an actual study that actually shows, the benefits of cannabis in regards to, cancer and stuff like that. So right here, this study is coming from the U.S. National Library of Medicine, National Institutes of Health. So the top of this article, or not article, but non-THC cannabinoids inhibit prostate carcinoma growth in vitro and in vivo. Pro-apoplectic effects and underlying mechanisms. Okay, so now I'm not going to pretend that I know the ins and outs of all these terms, but what the title is basically saying is that, a lot of the cannabinoids, which is basically the chemicals that are in, cannabis, they can help inhibit cancer growth. Okay, so what does that mean? Effectively, they can, stop, cancer from, growing. And there is another link that I'm going to show. So this title says anti-cancer effects and active component of marijuana. And over here it says Guillermo Velasco and colleagues at Complutense University in Spain have provided evidence that suggests that cannabinoids such as the main active component of marijuana, THC, has anti-cancer effects on human brain cancer cells. So even THC, okay, so much of the medical discussion regarding cannabis typically revolves around CBD, because CBD is proven at this point that it has a lot of benefits. But even THC is now showing that it does have, anti-cancer effects to it, and specifically cancer, cancer cells that relate to, the brain. So I'm guessing, maybe it could help with brain cancer, for example. And in the study, THC was found to induce the death of various human brain cancer cell lines and primary cultured human brain cancer cells by a process known as anthropology. And again, I'm not going to pretend like I know all these terms and all that, but at least as long as you can understand the main point that, what they're saying, as long as you can understand the main point, then at least in my view, you're getting, the important stuff. And consistent with the in vitro data, administration of THC to mice with human tumors decreased tumor growth and induced the tumor cells to undergo anthropology. So they did like this study with mice. So they had mice that had human tumors, and it looks like they gave these mice THC, and as a result, their tumor growth actually decreased. Okay, so, and you're asking, or you should be asking yourself, why haven't I heard too much about, studies like this? Okay? Just start asking yourself that question more. As analysis of tumors from 2 patients with recurrent, I'm not even going to try to say that, but it's a very aggressive brain tumor, receiving intracranial THC administration showed signs of anthropology. The author suggested that cannabinoid administration may provide a new approach to targeting human cancers. Okay? Now, if you ask me, this is pretty important information. So there's a study that this university did with mice where it actually showed that THC, which is the main psychoactive component in cannabis, and it showed that THC can actually, decrease tumor growth. Why are we not hearing more about stuff like this? Okay, ask yourself that question. And by the way, this is not even in a new article. This article was published 10 years ago on the 3rd of April 2009. Okay, so 10 years that studies like this have been around, but you never hear much about it. And of course, like I stated before, the reason why you're not hearing studies like this is because the fundamental premise that, studies like this would provide is that, your average, plant like marijuana can give you a lot of benefits, especially if you have serious diseases like cancer and stuff like that. And these studies are not new. They've been around for 10 years. This is something that I think should probably, be out in the mainstream at this point. But my guess is, and of course this is just like my own theory, is that, the big pharmaceutical companies are kind of preventing, news like this study, coming out. Because if they do come out in the mainstream, and I think as a result, a lot of people will probably, just start taking their medicine from marijuana. They'll start buying CBD products more, because, hey, if they provide me, good benefits like, helping out with tumor growth and stuff like that, why wouldn't I take more of it? Instead of taking all these crappy, pills and stuff like that, that hospitals give you all the time that probably just make you, feeling worse, to be honest. That's probably my main theory as to why that's the case. Okay, and I do think that theory does make sense. Like even in the instance of Dr. Sebi, Nipsey Hussle made the point that if word of Dr. Sebi's word to come out, then that will really hurt the profits of the pharmaceutical companies. Okay, so they don't want word of Dr. Sebi, coming out, because then, hey, that could hurt their profits. Society probably won't view the pharmaceutical companies lightly as a result. Okay, but that's just my theory. So I wanted to tie those two topics together, okay, because I do think that both the topics of, Dr. Sebi's work and, the studies of, marijuana in regards to cancer, I do think that they're both pretty important, and I do think they are, in extent, connected, because these are both topics that you never hear about, and I do think there is a fundamental reason why that is the case, and that is because the powers that be, they probably don't want you hearing about news like this. Okay, so, but that's gonna go ahead and wrap up this video. I hope this topic was pretty interesting to all of you, and if you did think this was interesting, make sure to give me a subscribe. All right, and you can subscribe by pressing this button right here, or you can check out my recent video other than this one by clicking right here. And of course, that's gonna wrap up this video. I hope all of you enjoyed this one, and of course, until the next one, take care, everyone. Peace.